and welcome to the first podcast of Mara Knits. I'm Mara, I live in the northeast of England. I grew up here, I spent a little bit of time down south, so my accent is a little bit mixed up and hopefully you can understand me. And I'm now living back in the northeast, and as my New Year's resolutions, I decided one of my resolutions was to make a podcast. And the reason for that is, it's kind of a selfish reason, but then again, I suppose they all are. And that is that I am not comfortable in front of cameras. I really don't like having my photo taken, and I really don't like being videoed or filmed. And this can be a little bit of a problem for me at times, and I decided that the best thing to do was to try and desensitize myself to it and do a podcast. It gives me the chance to play with cameras, and it gives me the chance to talk about knitting, and it gives me the chance to be hopefully part of the wider worldwide web community of knitters, and that sounds like win-win-win to me. So I thought I'd give it a go. So thank you very much for joining me. I've got a few things to show you. I thought what I'd do is I would show you some finished objects, some work in progress, some stuff that I've recently gotten that's to do with knitting, and then I'd also talk a little bit at the end about the other videos that you'll find on this channel and why I'm doing them. Okay, so let's take a look at some recently finished objects that I've made. So just like I would imagine most of you, I've been knitting like crazy in the last sort of couple of months for Christmas. And also, like most of you, I'm sure, I no longer have most of those knits because I've given them away as presents. They've gone off to their new homes, and so I can't show them to you, but I can show you some that I made for my other half because they're still in the house. So these started off life as yarn in the stash that I wasn't too sure what to do with, and then I thought, oh, that's quite a manly colour, I'll make something for him. And I ended up making a hat, scarf and mitten set. I can't show you the mitts because he's wearing them and he's not here. Doesn't matter, that's why they were made. Okay, so the hat, this is not blocked. I don't tend to block hats like this. They block on your head. I don't see the point, unless you're giving them away as a gift or something and it's not your other half who just wants to stick it on his head. So this is a free pattern that I got off Ravelry. I'll put the details below and you can go and find it. It was a nice, quick, easy knit. I started it one day, I finished the next day. I got used to the pattern really quite quickly. I would say though that I have quite a loose tension when I'm knitting, and you're required to take some of the stitches up a couple of rows, and I can imagine if you had quite tight tension that might be difficult. So just a little proviso there. But that said, it knit up quite quickly and he likes it, and I'm really pleased with it. And to go with it, I made this scarf. It's a big long scarf. Look, big long scarf. It's not the same pattern. Don't tell him, he hasn't noticed. Seriously, he's not noticed. The mittens are a third pattern as well, and he hasn't noticed that either. Doesn't matter. So I made these very much as a utilitarian set for him, and by that what I mean is it's a set for him to wear when he's out de-icing the car, doing stuff in the garage, having to do those jobs that you've got to do in the garden and it's cold, and it doesn't matter if they get a little bit grubby because they're just going to go straight in the washing machine, and he doesn't need to worry that he might be damaging something that's precious or anything like that. So they're a working set. They're also really quite warm. I'm going to take this off. So hat, scarf and mitts. I also made a hat for myself. I'll show you that. Again, this is a pattern off Ravelry. It was a free pattern, but I'm honestly not sure if it's a pattern that you normally have to pay for, and I got it on one of those free until this date sort of deals. So I'll put the details down below again, and I'm really pleased with this hat. This one's for me. What else can I tell you about it? It's knit on Sirdar Click which again was out of the stash. I don't even know if you can still get that yarn. And I knit it all on 5mm needles on a cable and then swapped to DPNs for the crown. And the reason that I did that was because I wanted a really wide rib. Normally I would go down at least one size, so if I'm knitting on 5s for this bit, I'd go down to 4s. I stayed on the 5s because I didn't want it to pull in, I didn't want that extra pull in. And I got gauge that way, but I wasn't bothered about gauge that way. In fact, I wanted it to be slightly longer that way, which it is, so that it turned it into a slouchy rather than quite a snug fit. And the reason that I wanted it wider around the brim is because, unfortunately, I get a lot of headaches, and when I've got a headache, if I've got to go out, most of the hats that I've got, if I put them on, that extra little bit of pressure just really doesn't help. So I wanted something that was not going to have much pressure at all, so I could wear it if I've got one of my headaches and I have to go out in the cold. So what else did I knit? I knitted, let me take that off because I'm indoors and it's quite warm. I knit loads of socks. I knit loads of socks. I don't knit a huge number of socks that have got like big patterns on them or anything like that, because they're my TV knitting. So I knit 2 pairs in December for my other half. One pair I can't show you because he's wearing them, which is after all why I knit them. And then there's this pair. So he's a size 9 shoe, and I knit them 68 stitches in the round, pretty much up and down. These are cuff downs, and I did an afterthought heel so that I could keep the self-striping there, okay? And this is West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. I always want to call them Yorkshire Spinners or Yorkshire Spinners yarn. I don't know why, it's West Yorkshire Spinners. No idea. So anyway, this was a ball that my friend got. I have seen it in the shop since, but up at that point I hadn't seen it. And we meet up every now and again, and we sit in, usually in a cafe, and we knit and we drink tea, and there's usually cake involved. And so we do that, and we just catch up, and you know, it's life, the universe, 42, what we're up to, that sort of thing. And she came in with this ball of yarn and I nicked it. I got this ball of yarn and I was like, oh my lord, you know, he's going to love this. And I wouldn't give it back to her. I just gave her the money and kept the yarn. It's really bad of me, isn't it? It's alright, she didn't mind too much. And I made these for him. And he doesn't normally like really, really bright colours, but this is blue and orange. And that's the colour of Iron Brew, which is his favourite drink. Iron Brew is a soft drink if you don't get it in your country, and it's bright orange, and the cans are orange and blue, and that's their colours. And you know, I won't try and do the accent, but it's all, you know, it's always advertised with a Scotsman going, you know, Iron Brew made in Scotland from girders and things like that, and he loves it, so he loves his socks. I also out of West Yorkshire Spinners, made myself 2 pairs. Ta-da! So I'm a size 6, 5, 6, depending upon the style of shoe, 39 in Europe. And these are knit, again, 2mm needles and 60 in the round. And I love them. It's a pattern that I got off, well, they're based on a pattern that I got off Ravelry, which gives you this bit. I'll show you. Put my hand in so you can see there's a bit of texturing and a bit of patterning going on there. And I took that from the pattern and then adjusted it to how I wanted them, basically. Let's be honest, that's what we all do with socks after a while, isn't it? And I love this, look at this, it's great! One of these colourways is called Rum Paradise, and I can't remember which one it is. I don't know, I don't care. I like them, that's all that I care about. I have new socks for my feet. This one in particular, I really loved knitting this up, all the bright colours, it was great. And I had loads of yarn left over, which I'll show you when we come to work in progress. Okay, and in fact, we should probably move on to work in progress now. So, works in progress. Remarkably few at the moment. I have very little on my needles. So I've only got 3 projects to show you. How horrendous is that? I know, I must start some more absolutely straight away. Anyway, I've got these, which is, it's a Rico Yarns, and I think it's called something like Super Bar. I've not knit with it before. These are going to be socks for his knits. Plain vanilla. I'm going to put Afterthought heels in, and they are what they are. That's roughly how much I've got left out of a 100 gram ball. Remember, he's a size 9, and I think that should easily do the heels. I'm not sure about this yarn yet. It feels, in the ball, it feels really nice, but knitted up it feels slightly scratchy. So I'm waiting to see what it's like when I wash them. It is a super wash, and it's 75% wool, 25% polyamide. So we'll see what it works out like, and I shall report back on those. I'll put them down there. I've also, remember the rainbow yarn? Well, I had so much left over. I'm making another pair of socks out of the same ball. So just little ankle socks. I like little ankle socks. And I'm putting it with some black that I've got in the stash. I cannot tell you what this is. It was given to me by another knitter who didn't want it. I know it's a merino blend sock, and that's all I know about the black. But it's knitting up quite nice. So there's one done, and I have cast on for the other one. I've only just started, and look how much yarn I have left. Look, I have all that yarn yet left. I'm definitely going to get 2 pairs of socks out of one ball. Amazing. I love it. This, by the way, is my my desk yarn ball. So upstairs in the office studio, I have on my desk this ball, and in it I can keep one little yarn project. And then if I've got the time, you know, because the computer's busy doing something, or I've got a few minutes or whatever, or I'm really stressed, then I can just knit around or so like that. But there's no other knitting goes on my desk, there's just this. So that's that. And my last whip is, it's a big one, makes up for lack of numbers inside. Ta-da! This is some chunky, I think it's the James C. Brett marble out of the stash. It's a stash buster. And Anna from Anna Knits podcast, if you are watching, look, blanket along. I really am doing it. I just haven't taken any photos yet to put up on Instagram. This is going to be in a moss stitch. Well, it is a moss stitch, and I'm kind of hoping it'll go along the back of the sofa. The problem with this though is that it's really heavy on my arms to use these needles. I mean, they're huge using these needles, so I can only do a couple of rows at a time before it starts to pull on my shoulder. I have a shoulder injury, and that's what sets off the headaches and everything. So it's slow going, but I am getting there, and it will get done eventually. Okay, so that's all I've got on my needles. They're all my whips. Must cast on some more. Okay, so we've looked at finished objects, we've looked at whips, and now I've got 3 things that I'm going to show you, which are sort of new additions to my knitting stuff. So I've got a book that I got, and it's full of some lovely pretty pictures. There's a book chain in the UK called The Works, and that's where I found it, and they sell off books at discounted prices, so I didn't pay very much for it, and I saw it and I looked inside and I saw some of the patterns, and they're not the sort of patterns, to be honest, that are going to suit me, because I am way too big in the boob area for most of these, unfortunately. But there's some really nice stitches and ideas which I'm thinking I can take and adapt into new things. So I'm really pleased with this. Then I've got, remember my friend Lorraine who I nicked the ball of yarn off? Well, we met up yesterday for a knit, and she had this as a present for me. And I looked at it and I thought, what on earth is that? You know, it was a smile sweetly and nod because I don't know what it is. And then she explained what it was and I thought, oh, how brilliant. It is a stitch counter. So the idea is you wear it on your finger and you just press the button every time you finish and it just clocks around and counts up and you can reset it rather than using those twiddly things on the end. And I haven't used it on a proper project yet, but I have tried knitting with it and it didn't affect my ability to knit at all. So I'm really quite excited about this now. That's great, love that. And the other thing that I've got is, I'll just take that off, it's more sock yarn. And I found a new shop, well Lorraine found it actually and told me about it, and then I went and found it in Hartlepool, which is near where we live, called Gencraft. And she doesn't sell online or anything like that, but she is on Facebook and she's really nice. And I walked through the door and the first thing I did was practically fall over the step. I felt like such an idiot. And after I recovered from that, the next thing out of my mouth was, do you have any sock wool? Do you have any sock yarn? And she said yes, and she had some West Yorkshire spinners, and she also had this brand which is called Red Heart, and it's an American brand. It even says sports socks colour there, and it's spelled the American way. And I'd heard of this brand, but I'd never seen it before, and I've certainly never knit with it before. And it feels quite nice and squishy, especially in the price range that it's in and everything. So I thought, oh, well, you know, it would be rude not to buy some and try it, wouldn't it? I mean, so rude. So I bought some. Don't tell his nibs, but I bought a colour that I know he won't like. So I get to knit them for me. I haven't tried it yet. I will give it a try and I will report back on what I think of it. So that's my only yarny acquisition, so to speak. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk to you about, because I don't want this podcast to be too long, is the other videos that you're going to find on this channel. And they're very much sort of how-to videos, sort of tutorial type videos. And I suppose the question is, well, why am I doing them? And firstly, it's fun, and I'm all for having a bit of fun. And secondly, I have a few friends who are wanting to learn to knit, and some of them don't live very close to me, and they asked me for a bit of help, and I thought, how do I do that? I know, I'll do some little videos for them. And so I did, and then we decided the best way to get the videos to them was to put them up on YouTube, and one thing led to another, and I'm really enjoying it, so I'm going to continue doing them. The plan is to have almost like a library of little short videos, no more than 2 to 3 minutes long, that will show you an individual skill. I'm starting with the really basics because my friends who are learning to knit are complete beginners, and then I'll build that up. And then once I've got the various skills up there, I'll do videos showing people, well, how to combine them into projects. Because let's be honest, who wants to know how to do cables? Nobody's interested. You want to know how to do cables in a project and how to make stuff. So that's the idea, and I'm going to continue filming those and uploading them, and also do the podcast and just have some fun with it. So thank you very much for joining me and sticking with me through this, my first podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've been pretty terrified most of the way through, if I'm absolutely honest, but I am glad that I've done it, and I'm going to keep doing it. I will put links at the end to where you can find me on social media, and thanks for joining me. Bye!